What's going on? How y'all doing out there? The video gonna be about the Showtime special about the Rick James documentary, which was premiering at Tribeca, and I've been seeing the previews of it. I'm looking forward to it. I saw the great music critic columnist Stephen Irie in there. I seen Bootsy Collins, a lot of the Stone City Band, various peers, artists, etc., giving their take about the legendary career of Rick James. As a person from Buffalo, New York, Rick James was one of the most important figures in the city of Buffalo. I mean, he, as impactful as O.J. Simpson was on the football field, Rick James was on the music. There've been a lot of great talents to come out of Buffalo, but Rick James definitely stood out. He should have been a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer. He's one of the most important musical figures of the last 50 years, a singer, songwriter, producer, arranger, composer. He wanted to have the tag the punk funk with the music. He wanted to take his music to an avant-garde level where he was able to bridge the gap of funk with pop and other genres. And the man, helping bring back the Temptations, bring back Smokey Robinson. You go from Stand on the Top to Ebony Eyes, which was a gospel-based song. And I know a lot of people of a certain generation mainly know because it's Super Freak and plus MC Hammer doing You Can't Touch This, which is greatness in itself, because if you can take a song from one decade to another to a whole different genre and different ears and appeal, that's like hitting the lottery twice. That's what greatness does. And Rick James had those moments in many, but not to mention, it's just his big hits. Mary Jane, You and I, Give It To Me Baby, Cold Blooded. You go on, Dance With Me. A great strong catalog of great songs, important albums. Come Get It, his debut album. Street Songs was a groundbreaker 40 years ago. The man was productive, prolific in his time. And not to mention his band, the Stone City Band, not to mention Tina Marie, a white artist who was soulful, which was so important to the black community that the white pop world, she had one pop hit with Lover Girl, which was years after her time with Rick James, but she was predominantly adapted and taken in by the black community. And Rick James saw something in her. Deja Vu, I've Been Here Before. Just incredible talent. He wrote that for her. And now incredible. Sucker for Your Love. Many great songs. The Mary Jane Girls. And In My House, so many great songs that they did. All Night Long, all that. So many great classic songs. And the man was writing, producing for those acts. And then Val Young wrote Party All the Time for Eddie Murphy. Think about what he did. Besides his own career. He had his demons and he had his distractions and everything, but the man was a productive, prolific, underrated, underappreciated musical talent. And one of the greatest to ever do it, as far as I'm concerned, on stage and live. The man knew his music. He talked about a lot of different things. He took you to Ghetto Life. He talked about Mr. Policeman. He talked about Fire and Desire with Tina Marie. He touched on a lot of different themes. He wasn't afraid to speak his mind about the racism of MTV and the politics involved. And he was exploring different avenues and genres in his music. And he left a lasting impression. And he covered, starting with the Minot Birds back in the mid-'60s with Neil Young. Because it wasn't for him going off to Canada and drafting it, going AOL, Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young could have had Rick James involved. So he's a lot of history that the man has been involved in. And I think it's important that his story is told beyond that the Dave Chappelle skits and everything like that, because even though there was a lot of comedy and there was a lot of drugs and access with women and so many things that happened, there was a side with his mother, there was a side of his life, there was a side that hasn't been reflected to balance it out. But he lived in excess. He was very excessive. He lived the kind of lifestyle. He was the soul brother that I said that he was the relatable soul brother. Because before rap became the dominant genre in the gene, you had somebody like Rick James, and Rick James was that rawness brother, And I don't think there have been, I would say I'd make a case for R. Kelly later on. It's like having a certain way of bringing back acts and being that around the way kind of brother in this music. But Rick James did it with lushness and orchestration and strings. He did it on a grandiose type of level, though. That's the difference, though. Greatness there, but just took it to another extreme. And he also spoke openly about the racism in the business, spoke about the game. He backed up his talk. He talked that talk, he walked that walk. And his music, what he did spoke volumes. So I'm looking forward to the documentary on this man, because this man has never gotten his due. They want to make him a punchline and make him a joke. A lot of it, and some people will say, well, he had issues and he brought up. Yes, he did, but he also spoke the truth about the double standards of race in the music business, and also that, hey, it's about the bottom line. If you had his music and persona today, you'd have an artist that would be unstoppable. And could you imagine the streams and everything that they sell today? Because this guy was going multi-platinum and selling big songs and big tours in a day and time when few black artists were. You had to be Michael Jackson, you had to be Lionel Richie, you had to be Prince, you had to be something. And he did that before. He was hotter than all three of them guys at one time. He had the it. He was the guy that Marvin Gaye was checking out. Ray Parker Jr. was checking out. There's a lot of artists that was checking what Rick James was doing, because he made it happen in the street. Parliament Funkadelic, George Clinton, all of them were watching him, because he definitely had one foot on the streets and one foot on the curb, and he knew how to play in both of them and make it happen. And you got to know what you're doing if you know your music. Please give me your thoughts and takes about the Rick James documentary special coming on Showtime. What are your favorite Rick James songs, moments, and memories? I welcome thoughts and comments, and I do respond. Thank you. Wash your hands, keep your mind clear, watch out for one another. And it's always important to remember the greats of the past. And you can't let white media and these people try to downplay it or make a joke of it, because there was a lot of depth there. And Rick James is one of the most important artists ever the last 50 years. I'm out. Peace.